My ex-wife took our 2 kids on vacation and told me she wouldn't bring them back until I signed the divorce on her terms. I signed what she asked to get them back. 3 years later my kids, now teenagers, asked the judge to let them live with me. I was sitting on a bench outside the judge's chambers with an OXO coffee in my hand when I realized I'd been waiting 3 years for that same coffee. 3 years ago I had been on another bench, outside a notary's office, with a coffee exactly like that one, waiting for the pen to stop trembling so I could sign what my ex-wife had said I had to sign for her to bring my kids back from Mazatlán. Quick pause. If you're the type of person who reads these at 2 a.m. instead of sleeping, you're my people. Subscribe and like so we can keep feeding this addiction together. Okay, back to the story. Today the judge was inside speaking with Samuel and with Jimena separately. I couldn't go in. Betty, my sister, was sitting next to me with one hand on my knee. We'd been there 40 minutes. Let me back up. My name is Carlos. I'm 38. I have a diesel engine shop in the Las Rosas neighborhood, north side of Torreon. I inherited it from my father 12 years ago. My father opened it in 1984 as a small 2-bay shop and worked it up to 6 bays. When he died 12 years ago, my mother told me, Carlos, your father wanted you to keep it going. If you don't want it, we'll sell it. I told her I wanted it. I was 26. I'd already been working there during high school vacations for 8 years. Now I have 2 shops. One is the Las Rosas shop. The other I opened 2 years ago on the highway out toward Saltillo, where the truckers post up. I live in a house I bought 2 years ago in Las Rosas, 6 blocks from the shop, 4 bedrooms. 2 of the bedrooms used to be Samuel's and Jimena's for when they stayed with me on weekends. Today there's all 7 days. My sister's name is Beatriz but everyone calls her Betty. She's 39. She's married to a man from Gomez Palacio, lives there, has 3 kids. Betty and I have always been close. When Natalia took Samuel and Jimena 3 years ago, Betty slept at my house for 5 nights because I couldn't sleep alone. My ex-wife's name is Natalia. She's 35. She's a real estate agent at an agency on Independencia Boulevard. When we got married 12 years ago I was 26 and she was 23. She sold kitchens at a furniture store. I had just taken over the shop. She moved in with me to an apartment we rented near the Soriana downtown. Samuel was born the next year. Jimena was born 2 years after that. When Samuel was 6 and Jimena was 4, Natalia started to change. Not from one day to the next. More like a slow drip, like when you have a faucet half open in the kitchen and you only notice once there's a puddle. It started with money. She'd say, Carlos, how much did you bring in on Saturday? I'd tell her a number. She'd say, just that. My coworker at the office, her husband makes double. I'd say, honey, that man has 20 years in his line. She'd say, well your father had 20 years in his line and he left this. Like I had stolen the shop instead of inheriting it broken in. Then it was the house. The house we lived in was both of ours but she wanted bigger. She'd say, Carlos, let's go to Lomas del Pedregal to see a house. We'd go. The house cost double what we could afford. I'd tell her, that one doesn't work for us, honey. She'd tell me, your father could have done it. You don't want to. I'd explain the numbers. She'd lock herself in the room and not talk to me for 2 days. Then it was the kids. To Samuel she'd say when he did something, don't be like your father, don't stay in the same thing your whole life. To Jimena she'd say when she drew, that's nice, honey, draw instead of getting your hands dirty like your father. Small things. Constant. I'd point them out to her. She'd tell me I was being paranoid. That she had never said that. Once I recorded her without her knowing in a conversation with Samuel. Samuel was 8. She was telling him, your father doesn't know how to take care of us well, son. That's why I always have to do everything. I played the recording for her that night. She told me, I said it because that day you'd made me angry. She didn't apologize. I put up with it like that for 12 years. I thought it was the price you pay for having a family, for my kids growing up with both parents. My own father had put up with my mother for 22 years on similar things and the family had come out fine. I thought I was on the normal road. 3.5 years ago, Natalia told me one night, after dinner, while Samuel and Jimena were already asleep, Carlos, I don't want to be here anymore. I said, what? She said, I want a divorce. And before you say anything, I already talked to a lawyer. I want 60% of the shop. I want the house. I want child support for the kids. If you sign all that without fighting it, I'll give you joint custody. I told her, Natalia, 60% of the shop isn't mine to give. It's my employees, it's the loan I'm paying, it's the bank's. If I give you 60, I'm out of business. She told me, your problem. I told her, I'm not signing that. 3 weeks later she took the kids to Mazatlán on vacation, without telling me. I was at the shop when she called me. She said, Carlos, we made it to the hotel. The kids are fine. I said, what hotel are you talking about? She said, Pueblo Bonito, in Mazatlán. I told you we were coming. She had told me nothing. I said, Natalia, bring them back. She hung up. I called Samuel. He was 10. He answered. He said, Dad, Mom says you can't talk to us right now. I heard Natalia take the phone away from him. Then I heard the dial tone. For days like that. Calls she intercepted. Messages to Samuel that she deleted before he saw them. I called Natalia's mother, my mother-in-law, who lived in Saltillo. My mother-in-law told me, Carlos, this is between you two, I don't get involved. I thought, you are involved, she's telling it to you from Mazatlán. But I didn't say it. The fourth day Natalia sent me a message. It said, Carlos, the kids aren't coming back to Torreon until you sign what I asked you for. If you sign today, we board tomorrow. If you don't sign today, I don't know when we'll be back. I called my lawyer. He said, Carlos, technically what she's doing is parental kidnapping. We can file a complaint. But a process like that can take months. Your kids are in Mazatlán in the meantime. I said, if I sign what she's asking and after that I file the kidnapping complaint, do I get anything back? He said, whatever you sign with a notary public under your own signature is valid even if there's coercion. You'd have to prove the coercion and I can't guarantee a judge will recognize it with your kids in Mazatlán being the factor. I thought about Samuel and Jimena in a hotel room without their father being able to talk to them. I thought about what Natalia was telling them about me those 4 days. I thought about how Samuel was barely a month away from turning 11. I told my lawyer, let's sign. I signed the next day at a notary on Musquiz Street at 11 in the morning. My lawyer beside me. Hers sent the papers from Mazatlán by mail. I signed 60% of the shop. I signed the house we'd lived in. I signed monthly child support for Samuel and Jimena. The only thing I negotiated was joint custody 50-50. The pen trembled the first 2 signatures. By the third it didn't tremble anymore. I sent Natalia a photo of the signed document. 10 minutes later she called me. She said, we board tomorrow at 9. I said, send me a photo of the kids at the airport when they board. She sent it. Samuel and Jimena with suitcases, in the waiting area, Samuel looking at the floor, Jimena looking at me with a face that didn't understand. That was the photo I looked at most over the next 3 years. I picked them up at the Torreon airport the next day. Samuel hugged me the way a kid hugs you when he wasn't sure if he was going to hug you again. Jimena asked me, Dad, why did we take so long to come back? I said, honey, we're together now. Don't worry. Natalia moved to an apartment in Lomas del Pedregal with the support payments and the half value of the shop that I'd given her by check. She took furniture from the house. The kids stayed with me Monday through Wednesday, with her Thursday through Saturday, and we rotated Sundays. That was the arrangement for 3 years. I was left without the house, with 40% of the shop, and with a bank loan to open the second one. I worked 16 hours a day for a year. Betty helped me with the kids when it was my turn and I was opening the new shop. By the second year the second shop was running. By 2.5 years I bought the Las Rosas house with 4 bedrooms. I made bedrooms for Samuel and Jimena for their weekends with me. Meanwhile, in Lomas del Pedregal, Natalia did the same thing she had done with me, but now with the kids. She told them over the 3 years, your father abandoned us. Your father didn't want to pay more. Your father prefers his shop to us. Samuel told me later. Small things kept piling up. Samuel needed soccer cleats when he was 11. He asked Natalia. Natalia told him, ask your father. He's the reason we're like this. Samuel walked out of the Lomas del Pedregal house and saw the new Volvo his mother had bought with the support payments and her commissions. He didn't ask his father for cleats. He worked 2 Saturdays with his uncle Betty's husband washing his uncle's car and his uncle's friends' cars. He bought his own cleats with the money. He sent Betty a photo. Betty sent the photo to Natalia. Natalia didn't reply. Jimena won a drawing contest at school when she was 9. She called me Tuesday afternoon to tell me. I said, honey, what time is the ceremony? She said, Thursday at 5. Thursday I had a check on the engine of an important client at the highway shop. I cancelled the check. I drove. I got there at 4:50. Natalia didn't go. She had a client showing a house in Quinta Manzanares. Jimena got her certificate. She turned to look at me. I clapped. That night Jimena said to me, "Dad, are you going to go to all my things?" I said, "Yes, honey, all of them." I kept my word. There was an afternoon, 2 years ago more or less, when Natalia got 40 minutes late to pick up Jimena from school. Jimena was 9. She stayed waiting on the bench at the entrance with the duty teacher. When Natalia got there running, with her hair messed up and her heels in her hand, Jimena was already crying. Natalia knelt in front of her in the school courtyard, hugged her, told her, "Honey, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me." She cried too. The teacher told me about it that night when I picked Jimena up later. She said, "Mr. Carlos, Jimena's mother loves that girl for real." I said, "I know, ma'am." I didn't tell her the other thing I knew myself, that loving her wasn't going to stop her from continuing to use her. Samuel's 13th birthday was the big trigger. Natalia had promised him a Disney trip. She had been promising Disney since he was 11. 3 weeks before the birthday she told Samuel, "Son, this year it's not going to happen. I didn't bring in enough money. I owe it to you for 14. Samuel went to his room in Lomas del Pedregal and didn't come down for dinner. Betty called me. She said, "Carlos, let's do something for Samuel. Don't sit with this." I said, "Betty, I don't want it to look like I'm competing with his mother." She told me, "Carlos, you're not competing. You're filling a hole someone else left." That Friday afternoon I gathered the guys from the shop. We put a table of planks behind the shop, in the yard. We brought hot dogs, sodas, a chocolate strawberry cake from Soriana. Betty put up fairy lights. We bought a piñata. When Samuel arrived at 6, I picked him up. He saw the shop yard decorated with lights and stood still in the doorway. He said, "Is this for me?" I said, "For you, son." That night, when I was putting Samuel to bed in the guest room of my house, he said to me from the bed, "Dad, this is the best birthday I've ever had." I said, "Son, I'll take you to Disney. When I save enough, I promise. But it's not about the party. It's that you're with me." I turned off the light. 3 months later was the Saturday of the 6 in chemistry. Samuel got a 6 in chemistry. It was Thursday. He got home to the Lomas del Pedregal house in the afternoon. He showed Natalia the grade. Natalia yelled at him. She told him, "You're as useless as your father. You're not going to amount to anything." Samuel stood still in the kitchen. Without yelling. Without crying. He went up to his room. He changed shoes. He grabbed a small backpack with a couple of things. He came down. He left the house. He walked. He walked 4 kilometers from Lomas del Pedregal to the Las Rosas shop. In March. In Torreon in March it's already 30 degrees Celsius at noon. He arrived at the shop at 2:30 in the afternoon with blistered feet and his shirt soaked. I was with a client. I asked the client for 5 minutes. I took Samuel by the shoulder. I took him to the office of the shop where my father had had his desk. I gave him a Coke from the fridge. Samuel sat down. He took 2 sips. He told me, "Dad, we want to live with you. Jimena too. We've talked about it, the 2 of us." I said, "Son, are you sure both of you are sure?" He said, "Yes. We can't take her. She manipulates us. Jimena cries every night after dinner." I said, "Samuel, you're 13. You're my son and I love you. But this you don't have to tell me. You have to tell a judge. I don't want anyone to say later that I convinced you. Are you going to tell a judge that same thing?" He said, "Yes." I said, "And Jimena?" He said, "She will too." I said, "We're going to call your mom to tell her where you are. And after today, we're going to start the process." I called Natalia. I said, "Samuel is at my shop. I came to get him from the middle of the street. He's going to stay tonight with me. I'll bring him back tomorrow." Natalia started yelling at me. I hung up. That night I called my lawyer. He said, "Carlos, the first thing we need is a child psychologist to talk to both kids and write a report. Without a report there's no case. With a report there's a very strong case." That Monday Samuel and Jimena went to the child psychologist Betty had recommended to us 3 years before. The psychologist interviewed them separately over 6 sessions across 4 weeks. His report was 14 pages. It recommended a change in primary custody to the father. He concluded that the mother was exerting sustained emotional manipulation and that the kids showed symptoms of exhaustion from managing adult emotions. My lawyer filed the petition for custody change on May 8. The hearing was scheduled for 3 months later. That's why I was sitting on the courthouse bench with Betty. The judge was inside speaking with Samuel and Jimena separately. Samuel was telling her what he had already told the psychologist. Jimena was telling her what she had already told the psychologist. I couldn't go in. Betty squeezed my knee. She said, "Carlos, they're going to do it. They know what they want." After 50 minutes a secretary opened the door. She said, "Mr. Carlos, you can come in." I went in. Samuel and Jimena were sitting to the right of the judge. Natalia was sitting on the other side of the room with her lawyer. The judge had papers in front of her. The judge said to me, "Mr. Carlos, your children told me what they wanted. I'm going to grant primary custody to you with visits for the mother every 15 days, supervised by a relative of the kids during a 6-month trial period." Natalia stood up. She told the judge, "Your Honor, my children are confused. Their father is manipulating them." The judge looked at her. She told her, "Ma'am, what your children told me is not something a father puts in a child's head in a week. It's something a child builds over years. Please sit down." Natalia sat down. The judge signed. Samuel got up from his chair. He took 3 steps. He hugged me. Jimena got up behind him and pressed against my other side. I hugged them both together without saying anything. Betty told me later that Natalia walked out of the courthouse without turning around and without saying anything to the kids. In 3 weeks the Lomas del Pedregal apartment was no longer manageable for Natalia. The support payments she had been collecting had flipped, now she had to contribute to the kids' expenses. Without the support and with her real estate commissions, the apartment didn't work. She moved into her childhood bedroom at her mother's house in Saltillo. The real estate clients Natalia had from school moms started not sending her new clients. Torian is small. Gossip moves through WhatsApp groups of elementary school moms. My sister-in-law, Betty's husbands, who had friends at that school, told me later that the psychologist's report circulated in the moms group with the names blacked out. By the next week the moms were no longer sending her referrals. Her boyfriend, who had been with her for a year, left her 2 months later. Betty found out through a cousin who knew the boyfriend's niece. He had told her he couldn't take the trial drama. 5 months later Natalia wrote me on WhatsApp. She hadn't written in 4. "Carlos, we need to talk. I want to renegotiate the divorce terms. Things have changed a lot since we signed. For human decency, I'm asking you to look at my situation." I read it twice. I answered with 1 line. "Natalia, you took my children 3 years ago to force me to sign. Today they decided to stay. There's no paper to sign this time." She hasn't written again. Samuel and Jimena have been living with me for 8 months. Samuel is 14 now. Jimena is 11. They go to school in Las Rosas. Betty comes Saturdays for lunch. Natalia sees them every 15 days at my mother's house, supervised by my mother. The first 2 visits Jimena clung to me before leaving. The last 3 she's gone more calmly, but she still counts the minutes for me to come pick her up. Last Saturday I was at the shop with Samuel, helping me to open up the engine of an old Cummins. He asked me, "Dad, why do diesel engines last longer than gas engines?" I said, "Because they're heavier, simpler, and they work slower. The more kilometers they have, the more stable they get, not weaker. That's what your grandfather told me when I was learning." Samuel looked at me. He said, "Sounds like you, Dad." I said, "Sounds like my dad. And it'll sound like you when you help me hand it down to your sister too." Samuel kept opening up the engine. I thought about my ex-wife, in her childhood bedroom in Saltillo, no school moms group, no boyfriend, no kids. I thought she had built the last 12 years with the fastest, lightest engine she could find. I had been left with the slowest one. My kids picked the one with more kilometers.